Let's get into the chaos. Okay, so this is the start of my new series, adding new characters to Smash Brothers. Now this has been something that's been done by people for a long time now, and I wanted to jump in on it too. I'm gonna have my series be a little different because I'm gonna add characters that are unlikely for Smash Brothers, whereas most people tend to try to predict or add a character that's worthy of being in Smash Brothers. This is actually something I did as a post a while back in like 2020 when the DLC was hype, but I never made a video about it, so this is what I'm doing today. And I'm updated my ideas. Not that anyone has heard the old ideas, but they're updated, so at least for me it makes it a little more interesting to go back to, as well as obviously, like I said, adding it in video format now. And this is number 0 because for these Smash characters, these are just going to be Smash characters I think should have already gotten into Smash Brothers. Those characters being Shadow and Ryu Hayabusa. These are two characters that I'm honestly surprised didn't make it into Smash, especially looking back on it now. I'll go over the reasons for each character when I talk about them in depth, but right now I'm going to go over the format real quickly. For the series, I'm going to start off introducing 2 new characters, one being an Echo Fighter and one being the new Smash character. I will introduce the stuff that I think are minor, like animations and taunts and all that. I'll introduce those first, and then go on to the moves after that, because I think it's more interesting looking at a character's moveset rather than bring up their victory animations and stuff like that. Alright, and with that being said, let's start talking about these characters. So first, for the Echo Fighter that should have been in Smash Brothers, Shadow the Hedgehog. It's very crazy that he did not make it in. Sonic has not gotten a secondary rep at all throughout Smash's lifespan, despite being one of the earlier additions. He was introduced in Brawl and then made it through Smash 4 and now Ultimate without adding another character from his series, while almost every other game that has an option to have a secondary character has gotten another rep in there. And I don't even think it came to the point where they just for some reason weren't thinking about the Sonic series, because they actually went through the assist trophies and updated Shadow so that he now can freeze time, which is a unique effect in Smash Brothers. So it's really crazy that they like actively saw Shadow and updated him and didn't think to just add him as a Echo Fighter. Maybe they wanted to keep the time freeze a unique aspect, but they could have just incorporated that into his moveset. Gave him the down special as Witch Time. Didn't want to make it the slowdown effect. You could have gave him the freeze effect. Might have been overpowered, but you could have balanced it out by making it like a move you can only use like once per match or it's gonna fail. You know? And then the obvious secondary move change would be the up special, changing it to teleport. So very simple. And to top it off, they added Knuckles as an assist trophy too, so it's not like Sonic was gonna lose an assist trophy if that was an argument too. It's like, oh well, we gotta have someone from the Sonic series being an assist trophy. They already filled up that spot. If that was a spot that for some reason needed to be fulfilled, like they had Knuckles there, so I can't really comprehend a real reason why Shadow wouldn't be added. The only other things that would need to be changed besides the up special and down special, not that they needed to be changed, but you most likely would change them because there's such a fitting moveset for Shadow, would be the animations. But the Sonic series has animations for the characters in spades. Like they could have literally looked at any game Shadow's from and taken like his animation, taunts, and victories straight out of those games, because every single Sonic game has like a victory animation, they have idle animations, they have it all already. So everything was literally right there, and yet Shadow was not brought as a Echo Fighter. Like, can anyone explain to me like an actual reason why Shadow is not an Echo Fighter? besides the possibility that they didn't want the freeze effect to go to waste. Like, it's good that he is separated as an assist trophy now, so he actually has value that an item can't give, but he would have had better value as an Echo Fighter. And when it comes to making him an actual Smash Fighter, they already modded Smash Bros. Ultimate to have Shadow as its own fighter, so like I could make up my own moveset, but people already did that, so you know, I'm good just bringing up the fact that he should have been an Echo Fighter at the very least, and just move on to Ryu Hayabusa. Now, Ryu Hayabusa isn't as obvious as a character to be added into Smash Brothers, but when you really think about it, he is a very good candidate, and I don't know how likely or how close he was actually to get into Smash Brothers. I don't know if there was like not a high enough demand for him. That's probably most likely the reason, because I don't really hear people talking about Ryu Hayabusa. But back in the day, believe me, I used to hear about that guy all the time throughout the internet. Like, he was one of the #1 well-known characters, especially like when people were talking about the NES classics. They always bring up Ninja Gaiden all the time. It's even so popular that when there was a fan game, what the heck is that? The Super Mario Crossover. I think it's just called Super Mario Crossover. You know, Ryu was one of the characters there. Yeah, he has a good legacy on the NES, which is something that Nintendo strives to add into Smash Bros. They like good legacy, they like good classic characters being added, and they also like adding fighting game characters. And Ryu is from a fighting game. He's from Dead or Alive. I don't know how popular that franchise is right now either, but yeah, he's from a fighting game. Nintendo, for the most recent DLCs and new fighters, they got a lot of them from the fighting games. Probably basically all the major ones except for Mortal Kombat right now, right? And in terms of a third-party character and having connections with their company, Koei Tecmo works on Nintendo games all the time. They have made crossovers, not crossovers, but they had they developed a game for Hyrule Warriors where the characters are the Legend of Zelda characters, Samurai Warrior style. Samurai Warrior style, and they also did that for the Fire Emblem series. And not only that, but they did actually do a crossover with their characters in Pokemon Conquest, and they even added Ridley into Dead or Alive Dimensions, Hazard in the background. So I think their connection is pretty good. I would be baffled if there was a problem with getting the rights to use Ryu Hayabusa in Smash Brothers. Ryu meets all the criteria that seems to be highly important when Nintendo adds a character into Smash Brothers. A good classic character, a character from a fighting game, a third-party character that's from a series that Nintendo has a good connection with, and during the time of releasing DLC, Ninja Gaiden was getting re-released on the Nintendo Switch in like a trilogy pack during like the DLC, so it could have also been a promotion for those games, which is another thing that Nintendo likes to do when adding DLC characters. They try to promote certain games sometimes, like Fire Emblem, for instance, is one that they majorly try to promote. So it kind of baffles me looking at all these checks that Ryu marked off and was still not considered for Smash Brothers. I mean, like I said, I don't know if there's like a popularity thing for him, if they even consider him at all. I haven't looked at any like discussions online about it. I mean, if you know about it, just leave it in the comments. Tell me how close my guy Ryu was into getting in Smash Brothers. I mean, I would hope having another Ryu in there wasn't gonna be a problem, because they have two wars, so you know. But yeah, I'm just gonna go over one possible way his moveset could have been. I thought long and hard about this. First, I'm gonna quickly go over the taunts in Dead or Alive. When a character enters the stage, they do a brief taunting to the enemy, or like a brief statement, and that could be something brought into Smash Bros. I'm going to specifically pull from Dead or Alive Dimensions because that's the game I have and played from. So this is what I'm going with. Yeah, he's going to have two separate taunts, one for pulling out his sword and one for putting his sword away. This is going to link to his unique gimmick that he's going to have in Smash Bros. That I thought for him. And then another taunt he can have is crossing his arms and just standing, looking like a cool guy because he does that a lot. For the victory theme, it can be the start jingle from the classic game. And if not that, he has a theme song that he can easily pull his victory theme from because a lot of characters use their own theme songs in their victory animations. Yeah, and all his victories can come straight out of the Dead or Alive games. He has a few of those. Like I said, I'm going to look at the ones from Dead or Alive Dimensions because that's the game I play.
The winner is
And if we're bringing a stage for him, you can easily bring in the Hayabusa village and just have a few houses to fight on top of. Nothing too crazy. And maybe a war going on in the back since that's usually something that happens in the games. The Hayabusa village is being attacked, so you can have like the stage being a normal setting, and then as the fight progresses, the stage starts getting attacked. You might be able to get hit by fire arrows or something like that. For his stats, I could see him being similar to Ike in airspeed, fall speed, and weight because they're both like beefed up men that you wield swords. Although Ryu being a ninja, I would expect him to be able to wall jump, considering it's a very heavily used skill in the Ninja Gaiden games. I would be surprised if they didn't include that for some weird reason. And he should even be able to cling on to walls too, like Greninja, Sheik, and Diddy Kong, who can just sit there for a while on the walls. Again, that's something he can do in the Ninja Gaiden games. As for his walk speed and run speed, I would put them very similar to each other because he normally just runs at a set pace the entire time, so I wouldn't want to make too much a difference between walking and running speed. I would give his walk speed a value of 1.13. This would match his air speed, and that's to mimic his games once again, because in the games you just run, you jump, and you continue at the same pace. You don't like slow down, get faster. So yeah. And then his run speed would, like I said, it's just going to be a little faster, 1.58 value. Now I'll be talking about the attacks finally. This is where I'm going to introduce his gimmick. He is going to be able to switch between fighting physically and wielding a sword. This is because, like I said, he's from a fighting game, and also because he has his platforming games where he wields a sword. And this is going to be kind of a unique feature. It's going to be similar to switching between characters, but you're obviously not switching characters. It's just going to be him. And the difference between fighting with the sword and using his physical punches is going to be the damage output and the launch. His sword attacks are going to do more damage, but they aren't going to launch the character as far, or the opponent as far. Therefore, they will be really good at doing combos. But when you're ready to finish someone off, you're going to switch to like physical attacks. Those are going to have higher launch power, but do less damage. The hitboxes for the attacks are going to be closer to your body, so that might also play effect into how you want to approach your character. If you don't want to keep your distance, if you want to kind of get in a little closer, you're going to stick to physical moves too. But if you want to keep your distance, then you're going to have sword attacks. And the specific attacks are just basically going to be the attacks whipped out of the game straight up. His jab is going to be this 2-hit combo from Dead or Alive. His sword jab is going to be this 2-hit from Ninja Gaiden. His tilt is going to be this 3-hit combo from Dead or Alive, as well as the sword being this 3-hit combo from Ninja Gaiden. Up tilt, this hit. Up tilt with the sword, this slash. Down tilt, this 2-hit combo. And down tilt with the sword is going to be a little different. He's actually not going to use the sword because he's going to remain kicking. So he's going to use the Falcon Talons. This is going to be kind of another representation of him switching out weapons, but the switch of the weapons is not really gonna do much change. It's just gonna mostly be a visual thing, so he can remain kicking while doing his attacks. But obviously not being swords, the attack itself is going to be a little shorter range compared to the rest of his weapon styled moves. His dash attack is going to be the swole kick from Dead or Alive. When he's using his weapons, he is once again going to change weapons and use this heavy sword instead. This move is going to be a little special because it's going to have heavy armor on it. This is to represent another game he's been in, that's Warriors Orochi, and in this game he's a power type which has the ability of not being able to flinch during weak attacks, and that's what heavy armor does in Smash Brothers. And I made it the giant sword for this attack because that will give off that impression a little more than just using his normal sword. You know, you see him using a heavier weapon, he's going to be harder to move while he's wielding it. Ryu's grab would just be a normal standard Smash Bros character grab. You know, you just grab right in front of you and just start pummeling them. I think Ryu should use a knife because I'm pretty sure he keeps those handy with him. Then for his forward throw, it will be this throw from Dead or Alive, with and without the sword because he has this both in the Dead or Alive series and in Ninja Gaiden. For the down throw, he's going to utilize this throw, grab I should call it, a grab, but not necessarily. You know, launch the opponent upwards afterwards. With the sword, however, he's going to leave the opponent on the ground because he's going to basically do like a finishing move. This will be like Snake's down throw where he leaves the opponent on the floor, or his back throw will be this grab from Dead or Alive. And with the sword, he's going to utilize his arrow. So he's going to throw the opponent far away and then take out his arrow and shoot him. And then up throw, what else is it going to be besides the Azuna drop? He's going to take the opponent into the air and spin them down into the ground. Kind of like Kirby, Charizard, or Meta Knight. It is going to be one of the strongest killing throws. His nair is going to be this flip from Dead or Alive, and then with a sword, he's going to use this special move from Ninja Gaiden where he spins himself like a razor blade. The fair is going to be this 2-kick combo from Dead or Alive, and then with the weapons, he's actually going to utilize his shurikens. This is one of the more prominent moves he uses in the air in Ninja Gaiden. He visibly throws more than one shuriken when he's in the air, rather than just throwing just one on the ground. And it's going to be a projectile attack, and therefore it's going to be one of the weaker ones, trading off power for more range. The up airs are going to be the spin kick from Dead or Alive, and then the up air with the weapons is going to be the exact same, although with using the Falcon Talons, the attack will become a multi-hit attack instead of just a one hit. The back air will be this cross chop from Dead or Alive. With the sword, he's going to utilize two swords, another weapon type he can use in Ninja Gaiden. Kind of purely for the animation, so he's still using a cross chop. Down air is going to be this dive kick from Dead or Alive, and it's going to look kind of like Simon and Richter's, or I guess more like Sonic, since it's not going to allow him to bounce off the opponent. He's just going to kind of go straight through them. And with the sword, he's once again going to go down, but this time not at an angle, and it's going to be more akin to Ike's up air on the down dive. Now for the smash attacks. For his physical moves, he's going to have the Torn Sky Blast, which is going to be a projectile, kind of like Mega Man's, except for it'll go a little farther while not having as wide of a hitbox. With the sword, he's going to do the charge slash from the Ninja Gaiden, although he's only going to do 3 slashes instead of however many slashes he does in the actual game. But he will be traveling quite a distance forward. For his up smash without the sword, he's going to use this Ice Tornado, one of his Ninpo techniques from Ninja Gaiden. With the sword, he's going to use this charge attack from Ninja Gaiden with both swords, where he flies up like a tornado. Both of these are going to be multi-hits, but obviously the Ice Tornado is going to freeze the opponent. For his down special, he's going to jump up and shoot lightning downwards when he's not wielding the sword. And then, when he does have a sword, he's going to switch to the heavy sword and do this heavy slam that is going to be basically Ike's neutral special. Now you're probably wondering why I decided to use his Ninpo techniques for the rest of his smash attacks for when he's not using a sword. You know, since all these attacks before were moves from the Dead or Alive series. And that's because when he's using his Ninpo techniques, he puts his sword away. Before I get to his special attacks, I also want to bring up the fact that for another gimmick he's going to have, I thought of him being able to use these fire phoenixes to guard him while in his shield. You could also opt out for the fire wheel, but I think the phoenix is going to be a little easier to identify as a hitbox instead of just these random flames everywhere. The phoenix is a more defined projectile, and it will also make it so that the phoenix can have a chance of not hitting you because they fly around kind of slowly and leave a lot of opening, whereas the fire wheel doesn't. To make this balanced, he will have to utilize his shield when it's at full energy before they show up, and also his shield will take a little longer to come back. I just feel like adding a ninpo attack that actually requires him to charge up before he uses it will be a more realistic way of representing his ninpo from the ninja gating games, because you can't use those whenever you want. You gotta wait until you build up a charge for them, or specifically find red orbs before you can use them. But now we're at the very end with the specials. This whole time you were under the impression that his attacks will be drawn out by the taunts. Using the taunt without the sword brings out his sword. With the sword, puts the sword away. Right? So that's how you switch between it. But you can also switch between it with the special moves. The neutral special is just going to be him using a very quick sword slash. Basically standard attack from the classic NES games where you just swing the sword in front of you. You can do it very, very fast. So this is going to be like a frame 2 move that deals a decent amount of damage. It's going to be standard damage output, probably like 8%, 7%, something like that. It's not going to have the most range out of all his attacks, but it'll be the faster one. It'll be able to destroy projectiles as you're able to do in the classic NES game. And when your sword's away, it's gonna pull the sword out. This is the only special move that doesn't have a different variation. It's just him always swinging with the sword. Takes out the sword. When you have the sword, it just uses the sword. So yeah. Side special. Without the sword, he's gonna throw these fireballs. It's gonna specifically represent the classic games where he's able to throw it up or throw it down, having the attack take up some time before use instead of just like instantly coming out, can be a way to represent the modern fireball in the ninja gating games where it takes like a very long time before it actually comes out. I don't necessarily think they need to home in on the opponent, but you can also add that too if they have like a little movement towards the opponent, but I don't think it's necessary. With the sword, it's going to be the flying swallow attack, and it's going to basically be like Fox's side special, although I would not give it the same startup time, same ending leg, maybe a little longer, but this move is like a very quick flying forward move, so I don't want it to have the startup time. I guess this would be kind of another downside to it. It would go at an angle downwards instead of just straight towards the air. I feel like that would make it a little harder to predict to use on any opponent, and it also wouldn't be as good for recovering, especially with the ending leg. And also, like Fox's, it wouldn't be very good against shields. Up special for both sword and not sword, he's going to teleport up into the air. When he comes out of the teleport, he's going to start a glide like he does in Ninja Gaiden 3 games for additional recovery, side momentum. And if he connects with an opponent during this, he's going to do his grab animations. Without the sword, he's going to do the forward throw. With the sword, he's going to do his down throw. And finally, for his down special, this will be how he puts the sword away when he has it. He will use the wind blades technique. It will be a multi-hit kind of tornado move that will launch the opponent, and the final hit will be him putting his sword away. So like, what you see in a typical anime where a character has all these slashes and then puts their sword away when they're done slashing, and then all the slashes actually connect, something like that. And then once his sword is put away, he's just going to have his counter from Dead or Alive. He's just basically going to launch the opponent up into the air. It will be akin to the brawlers counter, where it has to be kind of like in a specific hitbox for it to work, because that's how it works in the Dead or Alive games. You have to counter for the specific direction that the person is punching. It will be very strong though. And for his final smash, it's going to be the Fire Dragon. This is going to spin around him in a vortex and rise up. And any opponent caught in it will be brought to the top of the vortex, where the Fire Dragon will bite down and launch them off. This is going to be a pretty powerful final smash, probably doing like 55%. And will also have the benefit of, launching the opponent from a better position than just being on the normal platform of a stage. It will basically rise up to the top platform of Final Battlefield, of Battlefield, to the highest platform on Battlefield and launch them from that point. So it'll be very easy at ending a stock for an opponent. Now I'll do it for Ryu Hayabusa. Tell me what you think. Did you like my idea for Ryu Hayabusa? Do you think Ryu Hayabusa is in Smash Bros? I saw someone else who does Smash Bros moveset do a moveset for both Shadow and Ryu. I haven't watched them yet because I didn't want my ideas to clash. But I mean, I'll go check out the video now. But yeah, tell me what you think of what you thought of my take on Ryu Hayabusa. And stay tuned for the unlikely characters that I thought of bringing into Smash Brothers.